Whose team am I on? Are you on my team? Am I on your team? This is a question that human beings have been asking themselves ever since we existed as a species. In fact, it is such a simple, such a primordial instinct that we see children as young as 4 on the playground trying to understand this for themselves, forming their own friend groups, forming their own cliques, trying to see who will go to bat for me and who will I go to bat for. Who do I co-identify with? We see those archetypal identity subgroupings in, say, a high school. Those are the jocks, those are the nerds, those are the band kids. We see this in animals. Animals form subgroups. You have your wolf packs, you have your lion prides, even chimpanzees form different teams and get into civil wars with each other. It's pretty cool, look it up. But why? What is the nature of these teams, or what sociologists call in-groups? And who is your team? Whose team are you on? How do you think about this question? If you're an intelligent and educated person, how should you decide on what basis should in-groups exist? Are there good in-groups? Are there bad in-groups? This is the question that we want to tackle today. The reality of human loyalties and in-groups. And to start, let's try to understand at the most abstract level, what is an in-group? I would define an in-group as a collection of individuals that share a common feature and believe and take that common feature as a basis for mutual loyalty to one another. So let's give an example, and let's give a non-example. A non-example would be something like glasses wearers. There are many glasses wearers in the world, but there's nowhere where you have kind of a group of glasses wearers that see glasses wearing as a basis for loyalty to one another. It would never be the case that somebody would co-identify with another person solely on the basis that they both wear glasses. Nobody looks out and sees, oh, my fellow glasses wearer is in trouble, I need to help them because we're both glasses wearers. So this gives you an example of something which human beings don't take as a basis for in-group formation. So now let's give an example for something that does. Let's take race, for instance. If you're a white person, you may or may not take your race as the basis for your in-group, as the basis for your identity. There are many white people who do. There are many black people who do. There are many Arab people who do. And those people, when they take their race as the basis for their identity, for their in-group, they co-identify with and feel a sense of loyalty to fellow members of their race, right? And there are those who perhaps share that feature, but don't take that feature to be a basis for their loyalty, for their identity, for their in-group ascription. And therefore, that kind of in-group relationship might be one-sided. A white nationalist might feel a sense of loyalty to, a sense of co-identification with all white people, whereas of course not all white people are white nationalists. So now that we understand really like the geography of like what is an in-group, what are the different bases for in-group formation? When we look out into the world, we see that there are many features that different human beings take as a basis for their in-group. We see race, we see family, we see tribe, we see geographical proximity, i.e. like, people who come from the same village or the same country even, feeling a sense of in-group loyalty to one another. We see sometimes vocation, right? There are vocations that form like the union of coal workers or the union of electricians. The people in a specific vocation can feel specific, in-group loyalties to one another. And then there are the in-groups that are based on a shared idea. These are people who share loyalty to each other and co-identify with each other on the basis that they have the same beliefs about life. They have the same beliefs about what the world should look like, what the distributions of rights and responsibilities are, political ideology. So these are people like, for example, Muslims. Muslims are, or at least ought to be, an in-group that is based on a shared idea. But you also have people like feminists, democracy advocates, secular liberals, capitalists, communists, fascists. These are different ideological groupings that have existed, and people have had in-group loyalty on the basis of those shared ideologies. And by far the most dominant form of in-group association today is nationalism. The idea that your in-group, your team, is the country of the passport that you hold. It is the country of the geographical region that you were born or that you were naturalized into. And this has been the status quo since Westphalia in Europe, that treaty which changed the loyalties of people from their kings or from their religions, be it Protestant or Catholic, towards this abstracted notion of a nation state, which was typically tied to a geographical region and or a language. Definitely in the case of Europe, usually a language. And this quickly became the status quo around the world, that our primary identities on the world stage are: you are Chinese, you are Canadian, you are Egyptian, you are German. And that is what you are expected to be loyal towards. Those are the people you are expected to co-identify with. Now, I would argue that nationalism is actually a very poor and devolved way for human beings to self-organize and form in-groups on that basis. First and foremostly because it's self-defeating. The same basis, the same argument for nationalism, which argues for in-group association on the basis of a specific geographical region, can be applied to geographical regions within that geographical region. And in fact, that's what often happens. You take Canada, for example, you have a province called Quebec. And there are people in Quebec who see themselves as Québécois more than they see themselves as Canadiens, right? So the same logic that you apply to say we are all Canadian and so we are all one identity and we are one loyalty and that is our in-group, subgroups of that can form. Because, as we would say in Arabic, min bab awla, from, a higher precedence of reasoning, you can apply the same logic and create micro-states within a state and micro-states, and until you have competing nationalistic loyalties. You see this in Catalonia in Spain. You see this, certain Texans start to feel this way towards Texas more than they feel towards America, and it becomes unstable. And we Muslims, we're the biggest victims or self-victimizers of this cannibalism of nationalism. So many of the countries that exist today, from Kuwait to Lebanon, they never existed prior to the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, which united so many Muslim lands together, became consumed with British and French stoking with nationalism. And that nationalism, that basis for in-group association that dominates the Muslim world today as it dominates the rest of the world today, is what kept this status quo of Muslim disunity alive. Because again, what is the basis for our in-group association? Or in other words, if you don't like big words, who's your team? Who's your team as a Muslim? Is it Egyptians or is it Muslims? Is it Lebanese people or is it Muslims? Is it Saudis or is it Muslims? And notice that, the second option that I've been mentioning here always stays the same, whereas the first option keeps changing because there's so many of these different nations, but we are all Muslim. So the unfortunate reality in our lands is that we Muslims do take our nation states to be our dominant in-group identity rather than Islam. Islam became a religion which ceased to be a basis for the formation of an in-group identity. Just as I spoke about the glasses wearers, we no longer see that Islam is an important enough characteristic to form the basis for an in-group identity. Not all of us, many of us do have that, but as an ummah, as a political configuration, that is not the reality. The Egyptian state is concerned with Egypt as a state. The suffering of the Palestinian people will always be secondary, if not tertiary, if not quaternary, and that's really what we see, right? Like that Muslim countries don't give a damn about what's happening to other Muslim countries. And why would it be? Why wouldn't that be the case if nationalism is the basis for our in-group identity? And that is the other weakness of nationalism. It's kind of related to the first one, is that it can be easily weaponized by your enemies in order to turn brother against brother, in order to turn people who used to be loyal to one another on a specific basis into being disloyal to one another. And this is something that even the Prophet ﷺ worked hard to not just overcome, but to maintain a kind of larger in-group which would not be split up by nationalistic tendencies, or back then it was really the same kind of thing and just in a little bit of different words, tribalistic tendencies, like between the Aus and the Khazraj, who even after Islam sometimes would slip back into their tribalistic animosities, and the Prophet ﷺ would have to kind of quell that, remind them, and really reassert the preeminence of the Islamic in-group identity, that we are one team as Muslims. That is who belongs to this in-group is Muslims, all Muslims, and those who are outside of the in-group are the non-Muslims. So really, this is a little bit of ramblings today about what is it that constitutes a team. And teams are important because we, all human beings in the world, aren't all aligned. We don't all have the same interests, we don't all have the same values. We have to be together to be strong. The question is, how do we choose to be together? There are ways to choose to be together that are kind of self-defeating. There are ways to choose to be together that don't really take advantage of the fact that we are thinking, enlightened beings, that God gave the ability to rise above, tribalistic or family or even, geographical bases of in-group identity formation. We as human beings should strive for something higher, and our in-group identity should be on the basis of that purpose towards which we are striving, because that creates bonds that are way stronger than the bonds of patriotism, than the bonds of family, than the bonds of just some shared interest here or there. Everything I'm speaking about today is a dimension of Islam, of the Islamic aqeedah called al-wala wal-bara, loyalty and disavowal. And many Muslims, because Islam has been religionized, it's been secularized, are totally ignorant of what Islam says about the in-group of a Muslim. This is in fact one of the most important concepts of Islam, and it goes down to the Iman level, meaning it goes down to whether you're actually a Muslim or not. Do you act and think in a way that is consistent with the Muslims being your in-group and not having any other in-group besides that? Not subdividing based on nation, or based on religious sect, or based on intellectual or scholastic schools like madhabs of fiqh and so on, right? That feature, that concept is so rarely explored. And I really think that anybody watching this video, any Muslim watching this video who wants to understand this concept of Islamic identity, of Islamic in-group association, and what implications that has for us today in the world, an ummah which does not take Islam, unfortunately, as its in-group identity, well, I really recommend you take the Muslim Blueprint program. It's a program that actually has a module dedicated to answering this question. It has a module where we discuss the reality of in-groups, the in-groups that exist today, what in-group a Muslim should or shouldn't ascribe themselves to, what are the etiquettes and what are the outcomes, and what are our duties. So I teach some of the, I think I will teach that module, in fact, for the upcoming cohort. No promises, but if it's not taught by me, it's taught by my teachers who are even better than me. So please sign up. The next cohort, it starts October 12th, which is this upcoming Sunday. It's not a big commitment, it's like 90 minutes a week, and it really goes into some foundational Islamic concepts which are underexplored, which are important for every Muslim to know, especially in our times when we are divided, we are conquered. And it really goes back down to the basis of our creed. And when we hold on to our creed, God gave us strength. God gave us strength in the form of these ideas that we simply need to re-understand and reassert. So take the program. It's not a big financial commitment. It's like 40 Canadian dollars a month, and I have a coupon code in my description. You can sign up through that link, and it's not a big time commitment either. It's a great starting ground to becoming a Muslim who is actually, I don't want to use the word woke because it has negative connotations now, but is aware now of the reality of the world and his place in it. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.